right. Hopefully, a few people pop in here. I know Trill was in here a second ago. We get a good amount. Savage, get your ass on the camera so they know who's talking, bro.
Oh, I know. I'm just trying not to be eating on the camera right now.
All right. So we got what's up, Lim Willie? We got our first CFB 26 power rankings coming right now. Obviously, we got Savage on here to give his opinion as well. We're going to continue to do this. Nobody else messaged me as far as wanting to come on the show. So kind of watch how this one goes. And if this is something you're interested in, you guys can get on and do this too. I'm going to wait a couple of seconds for people to get here. There's only 6 people in here. What's up, Trey?
Before we get started, I got to address my list here.
No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
I'm not gonna tell people where I got it. I'm just saying, like, when it comes to I gave every user a blank sheet, because I had a hard time at first when I was creating the list. It was like, oh well, I was trying to use last year's game against some people, and I just gave everybody a blank slate. And a lot of y'all are gonna be surprised where y'all have them. But if that user's face wasn't, if you don't picture his face and you actually look at some of his games, you would probably respect him a little bit more. But there's gonna be some eyebrows lifted in this in here. Some people might not be surprised just because, but we'll see.
I guess to piggyback off of you, so I completely ignored last year's, and I know for mine, let's say you had a CPU game. And it was like a tough CPU opponent. If you lost, I didn't punish you that bad. But if you won, I gave credit.
I treated the CPU game as if it's a damn game. And when you win, lose, I mean, you're going to get knocked or you're going to get credit for it. A loss is a loss.
Yeah. Okay. I was like that at first, but it's like it was hard to judge somebody who didn't win a CPU, who didn't have any wins besides a CPU win. And then when you're like, well, he beat a top CPU team and this guy beat like a lower end CPU team. So it was like
Chilean rice tray.
I thought I gave credit when it was due, but I value, we'll see, because I value a win that a lot of people in this league will not value. But we'll see.
All right, so how are we gonna do this? We're gonna go through the slideshow. 32 all the way to number 1.
What is this, a fucking buffet? Like, why are we all smacking on camera, bro? Come on, y'all get y'all shit together.
And then proceeds to open up a drink. We're gonna go from 32 to 1. So the 32 slide, we're all gonna give our 32. I have everybody's list, so they haven't seen anybody's list. I've seen their list already. So we're gonna go through them. But let's get right into it. All right, number 32. So the number 32 spot, maybe. I have Washington State here. 0-4, 0-1, really rough start. Obviously one of the better teams as far as star potential and team prestige because of recruiting and stuff like that. But I just feel like with what we've seen so far, it's hard to not have him here. And it's no disrespect. I mean, at the end of the day, it's through 4 weeks. We're going to know a lot more as the season goes on. He's only played one in-conference game, and I think the Mountain West is the weakest conference by far. So I'm assuming that he's going to start climbing up this list as we keep going. But yeah, this is where I have Washington State here.
All right, I have Washington State here as well. Kind of like what Steven said, his team is considered one of the better teams to choose from. This man here is
I'm sorry, bro. I'm hungry, dog.
I feel like he's just struggling a little bit early as I think he averaging 10 points a game through 4 weeks of his play. So, I mean, it's just a struggle, but like you said, I'm sure he'll pick it up. And then that conference loss to Trey obviously hurt him a little bit as well.
And Coach Savage with his 32nd pick.
Yeah, man. Army, man. So he's played 3 games at the time of this, obviously, whenever we made our list. And against Dane, he put up 21. Besides that, in 2 complete full games, he put up 3 points. That, to me, regardless, is just inexcusable. At least Washington State is able to at least get double-digit points consistently. And Fredo is just like, I don't see it so far.
So you
Yeah,
have
I
Fredo.
agree with you a little bit. I was back and forth on them. I think the only thing that costed Washington State on my list is the fact that he had a conference loss, and the season technically hasn't started for Fredo yet. But I mean, he only averaging 8 points a game, so that's pretty bad.
All right, going on to the next one. We have pick 31, not pick 31, but rank 31. Sorry, this is taking forever, bro. This is where I had Xavier. For all the same thing you guys said, I think he put a target on himself with the number 1 pick, and he's been blown out either once or twice, and then he had the close loss to Fresno State. I think he has a lot of work to do with this team because starting 0-3, I don't know what his coach thing is like, his percentage. I think Savage knows what is that.
I think on a hot
I
seat,
just had it pulled up.
40.
I think it was around. I'll pull it up real. Go keep talking. I'll let you know whenever I have it.
But yeah, I mean, I think he's got to get over 500 with this team. I don't know what his coach like goal was when he signed the contract, but if he gets fired after being the number 1 overall pick, that is really bad. So
Honestly, I would kind of be surprised.
25%.
Yeah, I knew it was under 40, and I would be surprised. I can't say I would be surprised because he's gotten fired before, but I feel like taking his Army job was kind of a way not to get fired if he did bad. But yeah, at 31, I have Fredo as well. Just the struggling that he did. He did have one solid game against Fresno State, but like Savage said, he just hasn't been able to put up points. He's averaging 8 points a game, and it's only came from one game that even boosted up that much.
All right, Savage here.
And then, yeah, like I said, Washington State, just solely above Fredo, just because I believe he has shown the ability to score more than Fredo consistently week in and week out. And honestly, I think if they were to play right now, Washington State would be a very slight favorite if you were to make a line.
What would you put that line at?
1.5 maybe. Honestly, I would probably favor the home team by 1. If it was like on neutral side, I'd probably favor Washington State. I don't know. They're both getting off to rough starts. No disrespect. They're just. I mean, I'm off to a rough one myself, so I can't complain.
All right, number 30. With my rank at number 30, maybe. All right, this is where I have Texas State. This is Coach Alberto. I think he's had a very, very rough outing so far. Three possession or more losses. 2 of them he had to give up, forces or whatever because of desyncs. I don't know what's going on with his game. I know the game itself is very bad as far as the disconnects are going right now. But same situation. I think he has the chance to turn it around. He's in the toughest conference in my opinion, so he's definitely got a work cut out for him. Right now he is 0-3 and 0-1. So he does have a conference loss. I forgot to put that on there. So he does have a conference loss. He lost to Savage. But he also has one of the toughest schedules as far as on paper and record-wise so far. He's lost to 2 undefeated teams, and he lost to a 1-2 Boise State. So it's kind of hard to picture where he's going to be in the next couple of weeks because he had such a tough stretch of games, as far as record-wise right now, and then he plays Texas A&M this week. So it's going to be tough for him.
Yeah, I agree. At number 30, I have Utah State. He just hasn't been able to really put up points. I think he might average a little over 10 a game. He had some pretty big losses, and I was looking at Texas State here, but like you said, like Texas State had a couple opponents on there that was just undefeated. So that's kind of the difference maker there because their resumes were pretty similar.
Oh, you're done? Okay.
And honestly, it's pretty much the same as Brandon. Like, it was pretty close neck and neck with Texas State and Utah State. I gave the edge to Utah State for here just because at least Texas State has shown his ability to keep the games close. Now, like excluding his most recent game, that one kind of got out of hand. But like the first 2, the Boise and App State were close losses. So it's like at least you're being competitive against good users. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think Texas State's might look a little bad just because he had the games were close, but on the forced losses that he got, I think he might have gotten blown out on those sims. So it kind of
Yeah.
that was the thing for me.
Mm.
All right, 29, maybe. Okay, 29. This is where I have Utah State. I had him over Texas State because Utah State, all of his opponents are undefeated. So there's not one team that he's played that's lost a game. Liberty, obviously undefeated. We'll talk about him
Oh,
later.
that's the one I messed up on. Then I thought that he might have lost that one.
Savage, and then obviously he lost to Utah, which is a CPU, and they're undefeated as well. So two of those first three games were road games as well. So I think he just got dealt a tough hand. And I think telling y'all now, if I'm in these 20s, boot me, bro. You're crazy.
Who's that?
Trill said if he's in the 20s, boot him.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so yeah, I have him here just because the conference, I'm not sorry, the competition that he's played so far has been very tough. So I don't think it's really indicative on the type of user or program he's running. I think we'll find out soon. He has UCLA this week at home, then back-to-back buys, and he gets into conference play. And like I've said before, the Mountain West to me is a little bit weaker than the other two conferences. So I expect him to go on a win streak to kick off conference play.
At 29, I have Texas State. I think, like I said, those first two games, like he had a close loss to Boise, and then he had to get a forced loss, and then that game against App State, who is undefeated right now still. That game was pretty competitive as well, and then obviously he lost pretty big last week to UTSA. But for the most part, those first two games were a little close, and that's about really it I got to say about him, honestly. Hopefully, he gets his internet fixed up.
Yeah, man. It's really just internet issues that make him look worse than what he actually is. But I mean, pretty much we'll kind of get a good feel for how good Texas State is or isn't, especially now being in conference play and seeing the rest of his schedule. So as of right now, you have to be there. I'm sorry.
All right, we have 28 here. What's good, Leo? We just started, so we've only gone to like 4 people. So 28. This is where I have Colorado State. Obviously, I played him already. We had a very good game. I think I only won by 10. And then he lost to Toledo by 5. And obviously, Toledo, we haven't talked about him. He's undefeated. And then he lost to Arkansas State 10-0 in a defensive battle. So 2 of his opponents were undefeated or still undefeated. And then you lose to Arkansas State, which we'll talk about later. So of the teams that don't have a win, I favor Colorado State a little bit more just because of what he's shown as far as against the undefeated users. I know we talked about Utah State and Texas State playing good users, but he lost to Toledo by 5. He lost to me by 10, and then he lost to Arkansas State by 10. Arkansas State's not undefeated, but he's also going to be on the upper half of this list somewhere. So, your 3 opponents were pretty good, and you kept yourself in all of the games. So I favor Colorado State as far as the winless teams.
Yeah, at 28, I also have Colorado State. I just think that he's played the topper. His schedule is really hard, and he's played really good defense against all 3 of those opponents. Like you said, 2 of them were undefeated, and obviously we will see Zach up there somewhere along the line. He had Zach. I think he was down 3-0 at halftime. I believe at some point during your game with him, I think y'all was pretty close going into the fourth quarter. He's a couple mistakes later on in that Toledo game. I mean, he's kept it close in all 3 of his games, and I feel like out of all the users that have 0 wins, I favor him over all of them. So yeah, Colorado State at 28.
And I do want to say this is the only pick that all 3 of us have the same person before Savage gives his opinion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, pretty much like for me, Colorado State, of all the 04 users, he's been one where it's like he's just losing close battles. Like
Sorry,
you can point at Texas State, Utah State, and Washington State, and you see clear cut blowouts, not even should be on the same field. Where like Colorado State is at least saying like you got to respect me. And so just off of that, to me, he's the best one of the 04s.
All right, moving on to number 27. Number 27, this is where I have, if it loads, This is where I have Western Kentucky and Coach Christian. Very tricky person to rank here, because of the win that he got in week 1 over Dev. He looked very dominant against him. I think he gave Dev fits, and I don't think Dev is a bad user by any stretch of the imagination. But he kind of controlled that game. I think Dev had opportunities to win that game, but he just kept kind of willing his team to, keep the lead and extend the lead throughout the second half. He's on a 3-game losing streak right now. He lost to Colorado, Toledo, and James Madison. Toledo is undefeated. We talked about him. JMU is 3-1. That game against JMU, he played on remote play because he's on vacation. So this 1-3, I feel like has an asterisk above it, in my opinion. At the end of the day, your record is what your record is. But I think 27 being this low, I would be shocked if he was anywhere near this point at the end of the season when the final rankings come out. So this is where I have him. I have him at 27.
Yeah, at number 27, I have Western Kentucky as well. And it really just came down to those 2 conference losses. At being 0-2 in conference, I think they only have 8 games at this point. If you want to make a run for the conference championship game, you have little to less error than all the other users there. He did have a big win. I'm a lot higher on Western Kentucky than what his ranking is. But just those 2 out of conference, just those 2 in conference losses early kind of hurt him a little bit. But like you said, I fully expect him to turn this one around.
Yeah, I had Nevada at 27. Just to me, like, he has not been he's not been as impressive as I thought he would be. Like, I don't think he's like an elite world beater, but I just, was wanting more. And then of his user games, you get North Texas opening up, blowout loss. Then you get App State, a close loss, which is against obviously an undefeated user, so I respect that. And then Baylor, he pulls out a close one more recently. But I'd have him lower compared to the people. I think if he were to match up with them, based off of what he's shown so far, he would not be favored.
All right, moving on to 26. And as we get closer and we're going to have more conversations through, like, I guess we want to say, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, what's the C word I'm looking for, bro?
I don't know, like disagreements. Is that what you're looking
Not
for?
like what, like
Conflict?
Not conflict, but like, damn, I feel like an idiot. What's the word when it's like a stretch?
It just like I wouldn't necessarily. I feel like
Bro,
yes,
the chat knows what I'm talking about, bro.
We will get like a stretch type answer here soon, but like I said earlier,
It's like
13
con
to 26
something
or whatever was like all up in the air for me. So
Hold up,
I don't
bro.
think we'd have like a contradicting. Is that what you're saying?
No, what's the
Right.
word I'm looking for, dog?
I mean, we'll see. I mean, it'll come to you at some point.
It's like
It's not compensation or compensation.
No, it's the word that's like we're not keeping going until we find this word, by the way. It's the word that's like no, it's like, okay, let's say I said
barely even graduated
listen,
high school. I don't know what the fuck the word is.
let's say like if I was trying to if I were to tell you like Zach is the best user in the league. Like, what's the word for that? It's like it starts with a C, like it's a stretch.
On crack?
Nope.
I mean, what the hell?
Bro, what is the word I'm looking for, dog?
Cap? Like, what are we
No,
doing? Like,
no, it's a long word, bro. It's a long word. And
If
it's like controversial. There we go.
Okay. So
damn, bro, I'm
okay.
struggling, bro. Holy crap.
Now,
Ooh.
before we get to 26, to piggyback off what he said on the Nevada thing, that's
Bro
where
said
it's like,
contort, bro. What?
I don't even think he knows what that word means. I don't even forgot what I was about to say. Let's go. Keep going.
All right. 26. What did I have at 26? Okay, SDSU. I had Trey here. Obviously 1-3, 1-0 in conference. Lost to Navy big. Lost to Liberty. Lost to Louisville, and then beat Washington State. So I feel like of your resume, the one win you have is against the person who doesn't have any wins yet. And and again, no disrespect to Washington State, but when you're ranking people, you have to look at the resume. I feel like when you're looking at SDSU's resume, it's kind of hard to put them anywhere higher because of the lack of, I guess, positives on the schedule so far. He's 1-0 in conference, so he's one of the few people who have. Contrary is crazy. He's one of the few people in conference that have a win. So I have him here at 26.
Yeah, I have him at 26 as well. I just think that win that he has over Washington State, which is a good win, he's 1-0 in conference. It obviously gives him his confidence going forward. But I don't. I just think some of the like you said, he had that big loss to Navy. Some of his coaching decisions might have costed him a little bit. And just the fact that he has no buys yet. He's why are we laughing?
Because Buddy didn't call a timeout, bro. Just stood on it.
I mean, some of his coaching decisions has cost him a little bit. But and he obviously has more games played than a lot of other people here. So, like, I was really high on Western Kentucky. I really wanted to put Western Kentucky over SDSU, but the fact that he's 1-0 in conference, it really does help him out.
All right, Savage, you're up here.
Yeah, New Mexico. I put New Mexico here. He's had an interesting start. Obviously, he opened up against Coastal, not close at all. Played Tulane, not close at all. But his best win is better than Nevada's best win. And that was my simple logic of putting him over Nevada. He beat Illinois, who was a top 10 team in the country, or top 7, actually, because they're ranked 7 in the country. So off the strength of that win, he is going to be above Nevada, whose best win is going to be Baylor as of right now, an unranked Baylor.
All right, 25. I got to click this thing like 3 times. This is where I have New Mexico. Same thing. Started off 0-2, but then beat Illinois on the road. So that's where I have him.
Yeah, I have him here as well. I wanted to give him a lot more credit for that Illinois win than I gave him. It's just the fact that whenever he lost by like 60 something points to Coastal Carolina and Nevada. I was hard with Nevada. Like, you could have put Nevada so many places on my list, but it's just the fact that he'd had competitive games, and I feel like New Mexico, like the other 2 games, kind of got out of hand. But he did get him a good win against a really good CPU, so I have him here at 25.
Trill, man, Trill.
I'm so glad you have him here, so he won't be as mad at me. Oh,
Trill, man.
Let's hear it, Savage. Our first controversial take.
So obviously, Trill opens up against Washington State. He beats them by 2 scores. Washington State is, by us 3, regarded as either the worst to second worst user as of right now in the power rankings.
What's up, David?
Then he has a chance to show Trill is Trill. So he plays Coastal Carolina. Not competitive at all. Then he goes and plays TCU. Not competitive at all. And so that's where, for me, it's just like, your best win is versus the arguably worst user. It's like, I can't really stand on the table for that. And so
I agree with you, man.
And
That's
so,
why
you trying to get on his coattail?
Who, me?
That's crazy, yeah.
No, I mean, I'll get to Trill here later on, but I'm just glad he had him here. I had it before I did.
And so that's I need more, bro. We need to see more Trill.
All right, moving on. 24. 24. Opposite to you guys. This is where I had Nevada. I understand Baylor's win isn't as good as Illinois, but he lost to App State, who's undefeated, by 4 points. And then he lost to North Texas by 25. I know New Mexico lost to 2 good users as well, but he lost by 60. So that's why I have Nevada above him. I think that's a big stain on there. And it's also kind of splitting hairs at this point, kind of like what do you prefer type of thing. And I think that if I played a team like Ajami in Nevada, I would definitely have to come in my A game. We just played yesterday actually, and he almost beat me. I'm in another league, so I kind of know what he's capable of. So as much as I didn't want to put a user on a team, I understand that. I mean, that's not reality. I mean, I have to play this guy in a couple of weeks, so I know what he's going to be bringing. So I have him one step ahead of New Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have Trill right here, man.
Oh, no wonder you were getting on the coattail.
Yeah. And my thing, that's what I was saying before the live show started. I was trying my damnness not to put like users on these teams because obviously we think more highly of
Trill ain't been in here in a minute.
But that, like Savage said, that win against Washington State, and it wasn't no like world beater win. Like we've seen Washington State get hammered, and it was like I think he only beat them by 14 points. And then obviously you go at home and you play Coastal Carolina in the game of the week, and it's not close at all. I didn't really put much thought on the CPU game, but he did lose that game as well. But I mean, like I said, if we don't put a user on the team, we don't argue at this right here at 24 and 25. So that's why I have Trill at 24.
All right, Savage.
Yeah, this is where I had SDSU.
Brandon, did you say SDSU yet?
Yeah, I had SDSU at 26.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously he opened up against Navy, got stomped out. Played Liberty.
Damn, buddy ass is ruthless.
Bro, you just got to call it how it is, bro. You gotta call it. So then he plays Liberty, loses by 10. That's an undefeated user. I believe. Yeah, Liberty's still undefeated. Correct.
Yeah.
Then plays Washington State, big win at home. I see the vision with SDSU. Am I saying he's going to be an 8-9 win user? No, but I do see traits that will at least tell me like he is better than some of these guys where I think like Trill, for instance. I'm not saying I don't think it's not a guarantee that he would beat SDSU right now. And so that's why I say I'll give me SDSU.
I'm gonna ask you this question right quick.
Okay, here we go. Now we're getting in a conversation. This is the time.
Whenever you mention that, you got to take out. Before we like mention like how the teams are playing. Some of the coaching decisions that Danforth makes at SDSU would not get him past Trill, even though Trill is playing his worst brand of football, and he doesn't think that some of these players deserve to be suiting up in the black and gold. I just think as equivalent as they've been playing, the difference maker in this game has to be the fact that how experienced Coach Trill is over SDSU, who constantly makes questionable coaching decisions. That's the difference maker for me.
All right, now to rebuttal that, SDSU and Trill have a common opponent.
They do.
And look, and what happened with that common opponent?
Trey does have a bigger win there, and I was looking at that whenever I was judging Trey. I think that other loss is what costed him. But that's just my take on that. But yes, they do have the common opponent, and Trey had looked a lot more dominant than Trill in that game.
All right,
I'm just saying.
Moving on to number 23.
We're not too far off, but I mean I see what you're talking about here.
We're far off, but we'll get to that. At 23, this is where I have North Texas and Franco. Very small sample size. So for me, it's hard to rank him. The face you're making is making me a little concerned. But this is where I have him. Obviously, I had Nevada a few spots back. He beat Nevada by 25, but lost big to JMU on game day, which I feel like has to be said for something. The lights were the brightest, and that didn't happen for you. You didn't show up. But again, it's very hard because he had 2 bye weeks already. He has a tough opponent, number 1 in DKR at Texas this week. So he has the chance to skyrocket up these power rankings if he's able to knock off the Longhorns this week. But just right now, I kind of got him at the middle of the road just because he hasn't shown me enough to move him super far up, but he hasn't shown me a lot to move him super far down. I just think he's kind of coasting right now. So that's where I have him.
Yeah, before we get into my pick, I really didn't try to punish the people that only played 2 games as much as I wanted to. Because I definitely wanted to, but I just like trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. So y'all will see that later on in the list why it starts to look big difference here. At number 23, I have Boise State.
Hold
And
up, Savage. Why the
I know.
face, Savage?
And hear me out. The reason why I have Boise State right here, he lost to USF, and his only win came to an 0-3 Texas State, who is winless here, and his only win is to a winless coach. I was high on him. He had a really good game. It came down to the wire. He got stopped on the 1 yard line against JMU. But when I look at who you beat, it's just someone like you got to say, man, Baylor looks a lot better than 0-3 Texas State right now. That's what I took into consideration.
Oh, okay. I was confused what you're saying. All right, 23. Savage, is you.
Yeah, I had North Texas right here. It was kind of a hard ranking for me just because, like we said, he only had a 2-game sample size. And so one of those games that I really got to lock in and watch was the game on primetime, and it was not a beautiful sight at all. But like I said, he did have at least a dominant win on his record, so that bumped him up by default. Like if you have a dominant win, that bumps you up. So
Before we move on to 22, somebody go tag Trill because he ain't been in here ever since his name got called. Tell Trill to get back in here, bro.
I mean, I don't know if he's seen his name get called. He might have left whenever we started laughing whenever he said, "I better not be in the 20s."
All right, number 22. This is where I have Boise State. So Savage, we're gonna talk to you here in a bit. Don't worry. But this is where I have
like top 10 or something.
We'll talk to him. We'll talk to him in a second. This is where I have Boise State for the same thing you said. He has to win over Texas State by 22 points, but keep in mind that was a force win. So he didn't win the game by 22. That was a very close game. He gave the force win at the end. He lost to JMU and then he lost to USF. Both of his losses were very close. So I'm not saying that he needs to be super far down this list, but I think when you have a team like Boise State that everybody killed me for last year, I think you got to be better than 1 and 2 at this point, because you're going into conference play. You don't really have any room for error right now. I think if I'm not mistaken, he was the 3rd best odds to win the conference behind me and Fred. So he's definitely not playing like it right now. I think Coach Donnie has to step his game up with Boise State. I think he has the tools to do it. He's obviously showed glimpses and flashes of greatness, so I think he definitely has his work cut out for him. But he has 2 bye weeks right now, and then he goes on the road to the big house. So he's gonna have to show us something there.
Yeah, at number 22, I have UNLV. Like I was saying earlier, it's hard to put a user on a team. He hasn't had the chance to play but one user, which was myself. It was a 14-point loss on the road at Jack State. And then obviously he had the big win against Missouri. And then last week he went for the 2-point conversion against, I think it was Arizona State or something like that, might be.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had didn't get a 2, so he ended up losing that game. I really just think with this spot here, just the fact that he's only played one user and he plays 3 games. I'm a lot higher on UNLV just when I'm trying to take the user off of the team and try to break down it's just the sample size of no user play here, which ain't even his fault.
All right, and then Coach Savage.
Yeah. So Temple was probably one of the hardest teams for me to rank on this list just because, okay, you open up against Penn State and you win, which is, I think, of all the CPU wins, that's the highest rated win. Mm-hmm. And then you follow that up with a loss to Memphis. And it's just like, what are you going to be this year? And so really the Penn State win is doing all the heavy lifting because truthfully,
Savage is crazy, bro.
Because
I'm not mad at it. Honestly, I respect him.
Because truthfully, like against Memphis, like if he had an efficient game and lost, okay, I can live with it. But it's like 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, 45-35. Like, yeah, I need to see a trait. Like, can you play defense? Can you not turn the ball over? Like, it's a lot of unknowns with Temple. So it's just like the jury is out. The jury is out.
All right, moving on to pick 21. Before we unveil these picks, whoever's in here, let us know who's in here. There's 16 people in here. I just want to make sure everybody's still good. The stream's not messing up.
In the chat. I ain't seen nobody pop up in a minute.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's still going good.
I saw Porter just typed out deuce in the Discord chat.
Yeah, I want to make sure everybody can hear us. What's up, Leo?
Said bulletin board material.
All right, 21. I don't have him at Deuce Deuce, but I do have him at 21, and that's Coach Fred.
Deuce Uno, do this.
It's hard. I mean, the loss to Jacksonville State, obviously, I think that was a 50-50 game. You were on the road. So, I mean, you can't be mad at that. You win your home game against Mizzou, and then you lose on the road against Arizona State. You have a very big game this week against USF. So I think you have the opportunity to move up this list. But being 1-2 and being number 21, I know that's not where Fred wants to be for damn sure. He was the second best odds to win the Mountain West. He hasn't played any Mountain West game, so his destiny is still in front of him. He still controls it. There's nothing he could win out and win the conference. I wouldn't say he can make the playoffs with 2 losses. I don't think that's possible because it's hard. Well, I mean, UNLV is probably one of the only teams that can get ranked with 2 losses like that. But I know this isn't where he wants to be, and I don't expect him to be around 21 at the end of the year. This is a top 6 user, top 5 user, I think, as far as BYL went last year. So I think he just has to get his feet underneath him. He has USF then 2 bye weeks, and he gets in conference play. So I look forward to seeing how you can turn it around.
Yeah, at number 21, I have Temple. Just the fact that he did. This was like when it got really hard for me because some people beat up on really good CPUs who probably, I don't like no disrespect to Memphis, but I don't know if he would even come close to even touching Penn State. But it was kind of hard to judge from that way. But when you beat Penn State at home and then go on the road to Memphis, and it's just like high, low, high, low, high, low all game, like you threw a touchdown and then threw a pick. And it was just a back and forth type of game. And it was a small sample size. He was only played 2 games. I tried my best not to punish people. As y'all will see, there's some more users that only have 2 games played that hasn't came up yet. And that was just my main thing. But when it comes to the loss, I feel like that Memphis loss was what hurt him.
All right, 21 for Coach Savage.
Yeah, and this is where I had Memphis, solely off the fact that I saw him in a big prime time. Wasn't prime time, but like it was a game that everybody was pretty much dialed into. It turned into a prime time game, essentially,
because of survival pool.
Yeah, and
shout out to the
survival pool, and like obviously, yes, he has a loss to Oregon State and he has a loss to Iowa State. Those are not bad losses. Like Oregon State is 2-1, for what it is. Iowa State is a top 10 team in the country for what it is. So then you get Temple, who's coming off of beating Penn State, and you take care of business. So, yeah, you're going to be above them.
All right, number 20. If it wants to click. Number 20, this is where I have yours truly, USF and Leo DeGucci. 1-1, big-time blowout loss in week 1 to Tulane, which I think is what caused him to fall in my rankings personally, losing by 26. But then you go on the road at Boise and beat a good coach and Coach Donnie. At that point, Donnie was 1-1. So he said, I got UTSA next, and that guy is dominating everybody right now. That's Memphis talking. But yeah, I think that was a good win for you to go on the road and beat the best overall team in the Mountain West. I think that was solid. So I still think, just like I said about North Texas and every other team that I'm going to say that's 1-1, you have, a good win and a not so good loss. So you're going to have to kind of show us a little bit more to move up. But I didn't penalize you because 20 is a good spot to be 1-1. A lot of these people have 3 and 4. You got me next, not Savage. Oh, a lot of people have 3 and 4 games played already.
Yeah, at number 20, I have Memphis. And it just came down to that big win over Justin. But the other 2 losses that he has, they wasn't really that bad of a loss. Oregon State, obviously, we haven't seen him yet. And I think that was a pretty competitive game for the most part. But was it Iowa State that he lost to?
Yeah, Iowa State.
I was trying my best not to put too much thought on obviously we had to take in consideration for CPU for a certain point, but the big losses to the CPU really didn't decide my factor here. I think that he had a good win against Temple, and then obviously that loss to Oregon State wasn't really that bad, so I have him here at 20.
All right, Savage's 20th pick.
Yeah, this is UNLV. It was again another like really difficult team to rank because you only get one user game, and then I think he might be the only user that's played 2 CPU games so far.
Yeah, he is.
Um,
I think so.
and so that's why it's also like I did give a little bit of grace because obviously one is a top 10 team and the other one is a SEC program. Got the win over Mizzou, lost to Jack State on the road, not a good visual, and then nearly beat the number 8 team. So he had 2 Power 4 games and was 1 point away from coming out on top of both. Because I think, I mean, obviously, yes, he loses to Arizona State, but if you just flip that score and he wins, then he probably skyrockets a little bit in this ranking.
All right, number 19. Number 19, this is where I have Rice and Coach Bryce, 1 and 2. It was hard to rank this person as well because he didn't get to play last night against Navy, so he got a forced loss. So I'm not even looking at the score. I just know it was a loss at the end of the day. He lost big to Texas A&M, and he beat Fresno State, who we have not seen here yet. But I think that Fresno State was a good win early on the road. First game of the week game, lights were bright. They both talked a lot of trash, and Rice was the one who backed it up. With that being said, though, I think that Texas A&M loss was pretty bad. Especially when you see these other users that are beating Power 4 teams. I don't think it's impossible to beat a Power 4 team. I think it's hard, but we had people beating Penn State. We had people beating Illinois. I beat USC. We had somebody beat Clemson. So I don't think it's impossible to beat a CPU. So with that being said, I give you credit for beating them, but I'm also going to knock you for losing to them, especially losing to them big, because there are certain things you can do against a CPU. They're not going to adjust like a user would. So although you're outmatched, I still think you can at least keep the game close. And this was a 3-possession loss, so I did knock Rice a little bit for that. But again, no conference games played yet, so he still has a chance to control his own destiny. It's the toughest conference, though, so it's probably a long shot. But if you're confident and can reel off a couple of wins, and obviously you can get some momentum going.
Yeah, number 19, this is where I have Nevada, as y'all been called him a long time ago. I think this might have been the situation where I might have put like a user on a team just because I feel like that he had one close game against undefeated App State, and then obviously that week 1 game to North Texas. He got beat pretty bad, but then he comes back and gets a grinded out win versus a Baylor team. I think when it comes to like just playing the 2 users, and he was in a close game against an undefeated team, and then obviously I think pretty highly of North Texas. So this is why I have Nevada here at 19.
Yeah, this is Rice is one of the more difficult users to grade just because he had one the forced loss to Navy. Essentially he's being graded on how high was your high, which was in prime time, lights were bright, absolutely stumped out Fresno 21-0. Then he goes on the road or plays A&M, loses by multiple possessions, and then for some reason, whenever he's about to go against an undefeated user, now we have conflicting schedules and missing wake up times.
Why are you saying it like that? He was really gone, bro. He was really gone, bro.
He was, but I mean,
he lives by me. He lives by me. He was really gone.
But he did miss a wake up time.
He did miss a wake up time. That is correct. All right,
That's
so
all I'm saying.
I understand. All right, moving on to 18. So I'm going to explain this one just briefly. This is where I have Trill and Southern Miss. So a lot of people wonder why I didn't flip-flop him and Rice. He has a better loss in TCU. TCU is ranked higher than A&M. And then he lost, obviously, to Coastal, who we haven't seen Coastal or Navy on this list. But you guys will see where I have both of those users as well. So when I did my complete rankings, as I was working from 1 all the way down, with that being said, I felt like Southern Miss's resume was better than Rice's resume based on my rankings. Now, it may be different from their 2 rankings, but based on where I have these people's wins and losses in correlation to where everybody's rankings are, Southern Miss has a better resume to me. So that's why Trill ended up at 18 for me. I mean, I also feel like if you put Trill and or I would say, I'm not going to say Trill, if you put Southern Miss and Rice on a field today, I would favor Southern Miss. So it was kind of splitting hairs at that point. So, yeah, that's why I have 18.
I have myself at 18. I don't really want to speak too much on myself, obviously, because
Well, you need to because you put yourself
but
here.
yeah, I put myself here at 18, and it really just boils down to I got manhandled on the road at South Carolina. I feel like they are one of the harder CPUs just because Lenore Sellers has fucking magician or whatever the fuck it is, platinum extender, and he broke every sack. But I could have probably kept the game a lot closer, but my starting running back gets hurt. My starting quarterback gets hurt. So it did get out of hand really quick after halftime. I think it was 7-7 with 40 seconds left, and then it was 21-7 immediately after that. So I definitely got handled by the CPU. I had a closer game until got a late score against Toledo, who is undefeated. We haven't seen him yet, which I shot myself in the foot early that game, and I was trying to battle back, ended up losing by 12. And then I had the 14-point victory over UNLV. So my resume really isn't that great. Yeah, I have myself here at 18.
All right, Savage, your 18th pick or 18th team, I guess I'd say.
La Tech, man, Dev Rufus, man. So opens up against Western Kentucky, loses, clear cut. All right. Then he goes to San Jose, and the Western Kentucky loss was also a loss that made it kind of seem like, oh, this might be a long year for Dev. And then he turns around, plays San Jose State, plays them close. Like
That was a very good game. Very good game.
Like really, a really good close game. And then goes to Miami and wins at Miami. And I'm like, okay. And I think that was a top 10 win. I think they were ranked number 7 or number 8 at the six at the time.
On the road too.
And, yeah, and so that's why it's like, okay, that's a big win. And obviously bonus points for being on the road. So I feel like he's trending upward compared to some other users where they might plateau right now. Like they kind of are, like some users are just kind of like here. Like I don't really know, but like Dev to me is trending upward.
Okay, I respect that. All right, number 17. We're getting to the halfway point. So at number 17, maybe. This is where I have Jack State. I'm going to beat the same drum. It's the same thing. When I looked at his resume in comparison to the previous two teams, Southern Miss and Rice, he lost to a better team in South Carolina. It was better than TCU, as well as A&M rank-wise. He lost to Toledo, who we haven't seen on here, but they're going to be better than both of those teams on my list personally. And then you beat UNLV, who we saw at 21, if I'm not mistaken, on my list. So I kind of just made my list from 1 on down to 32, and then I compared everybody's resumes as I was going, and that's how I came up with Jack State at 17. I know this ain't where you want to be, so you got some work to do. You in the tough conference, so it's going to be interesting. You got game of the week this week against Rice, who was 2 spots back. So one of you guys is going to be able to go up, and one of you guys is going to go back.
As y'all see, he hasn't been on my list yet either, but I'm going to beat shit down his leg. That's just what it's going to be. It ain't going to be much of a game of the week.
All right, I hear you. You're up 17.
At number 17, this is where I have Dev at. And this is the reason why I was back and forth with Dev and myself was because of that loss that he had to Western Kentucky week 1. It was a pretty bad loss, but I do feel like that Miami win on the road was a lot better than my home win against UNLV. So that's kind of the reason why I had Dev 1 spot ahead of me. But like Savage said, he is trending up. You have a really close game against San Jose State, and then the next week you go to Miami and you get a win there. And I don't know who he plays this. I think he plays Trill this week.
You got to buy. He does play Trill. He does play Trill. My bad.
And I think he's in a lot better situation to kind of like start getting on his path to start winning some conference games than a lot of the people that we've named so far.
All right, Savage, 17th ranked team so far.
Western Kentucky, man. So here's my thing with Western Kentucky. Yes,
I'm all ears, man.
Yes,
too, man.
Yes, he's 1-3. He's 1-3.
I was high on him, but we got 1-3, man. You're 0-2 in conference, brother.
Look, that's fine. That's a so far thing, and we are talking so fars. But he does have a win over Dev, who we just have ranked right there at 17, and then he has a loss to Colorado. Okay, CPU, whatever, and it was a big loss. So, but CPU, regardless, plays Toledo. Now, obviously, these things happen and things like that happen. So the final game, I think Toledo ended up winning by like 10 plus. and then plays JMU close. So your two of your three losses are to pretty much guys that have not even been put on this list yet. And you're having competitive games. And we know for sure Western Kentucky has at least a Heisman candidate who is going to give people trouble. And so that's why I can say, okay, of the one loss users, who would be favored right now? He would be favored over a lot of these. I mean, not one loss, one win users. He would be favored over a lot of these one win teams because you see the problems Western Kentucky is giving everybody.
I agree with you there. I think the only reason why I kind of shot himself in the foot for me was the fact that when you talk about conference situation as being 0-2, it's just that he has a lot there's so many people in his conference that are either 1-0 or 0-0, and you're so far behind the 8 ball at this point. You have a lot of catching up to do, and you still have a lot of people that to play. Will he give them trouble? Yes, I do think so. But I just at this point where he's at, I just feel like he's so far behind. Can he still? He'd have to go under 6-0. He'd have to run the table at this point to kind of make a run for that conference championship game. Could it happen? Yes, but we'll see. I'm not mad at it just because I know you're basically going off his potential. But it was 2 conference losses that kind of shot himself for me.
All right, number 16. We've briefly talked about this user in this program. I don't know why it takes forever to go. But this is where I have La Tech. Again, same circumstance. Lost to Western Kentucky early on. I think that loss is bad as of right now because of where Western Kentucky is, being 1-3. But like I said, when I listed Western Kentucky at 27, I would be shocked if he's at 20 anywhere near there at the end of the season. Lost to me by 3 or he was at home that game. So lost to 3 to me, but I was up 24-7 at halftime. Came back, took the lead, and then I ended up kicking a game-winning field goal. And then goes on the road to get the second best win in BYL so far at number 6 Miami. They're not number 6 anymore, obviously, because he beat them. But they were the second best win outside of the number 2 Penn State win. So I gave him a lot of credit for that. Like I said 20 minutes ago, if you lost to a CPU, I knocked you for it. And if you won against a CPU, I gave you a lot of credit for it. And I've been consistent with that. And I think that win was big time. He almost didn't get to play it. So woke up in time this morning to play it. And that helped him get to that 16 spot at 1-2 for me.
Yeah, at 16, I have ECU. He had a close loss to Zach by 1 point on week 0, and then he plays Clemson on the road. He gets that big, huge win there, and that's kind of what separated himself from a lot of the one-loss teams. It was that Clemson win, and then he lost to Coastal Carolina, which was also a close game as well. On Game of the Week, probably the best game of the week we've seen so far. And the only thing that kind of shot him in the foot, like I said earlier with Western Kentucky, is the fact that he's already 0-1 in conference, or he would be a lot higher on this list because he has some of the better losses. And I would favor that Clemson win over a lot of people's wins right now.
Coach Savage.
This is where I have Leo. Now, Leo has such a tale of two cities. First 2 games, like the first game, he goes against Boise. Or not Boise, my bad. He goes against Tulane and loses big. And then he takes the bye week, gets in the lab, plays Boise, and then Leo now looks like Leo again. And I think highly of Boise. And so that's why it's like, okay, like that to me is Leo is trending very much so upward now and kind of wiped away the concerns that I had based off of the week 0 game. And so that's where I have him at 16. But his next game is versus UNLV, and I think that'll be toss-up.
Already at 15. This is where I have Dane and Fresno State. 2-2, 1-0 in conference. Dane was very hard to rank to me. This is probably one of the hardest ones to rank for me because you lose to Rice in week 1 in the game of the week. And like I said, I'm going to be consistent. I think when you lose a game of the week, all eyes on you. That's a pressure moment. I've said this so many times about head-to-head games outside of the league. Those games don't matter. Game of the weeks in leagues matter. You talked a lot of trash and you lost. So I had to knock you for that. Then you reel off 2 straight versus Army and then versus Oregon State. That Oregon State win was very, very big. Oregon State was undefeated at the time, and that was both of their conference openers. And you win that game. So now you're 1-0 in conference, but then you lose on the road to Texas Tech. That's a tough loss. I mean, they're a top 20 team. So I tried my best to not knock him for that, but like I said, I stayed consistent. And because he lost that game, he had to fall a couple of spots for me. Because, like I said, it's not impossible to beat the CPU, and you lost by 25 points, damn near. So, got to be better against CPU. Got to be able to win those games. I think if you win that game, you're in the top 5. So, definitely got to win those type of games. But this is where I have Dane at 15.
At number 15, this is where I have Leo Degucci. Like I said earlier, I just don't want to. I wasn't trying to put a name on some of these teams. I didn't want to punish him. He had a bad loss against Tulane, who we haven't seen yet, and then he goes and bounce backs. And I was highly of Boise State as well. He got a good win against Texas State early, and then the next game he keeps it close against JMU. I was pretty high on that. He goes on the. I think he might have went on the road to Boise. No, I think it might have been at home. Now that I think about it, but he had a big win over Boise State. And I just 2 games. It's just hard to judge. I didn't want to punish him too much, and I just didn't want to put a face on anybody, so I put him here at 15.
All right, Savage at 15.
This is where I have Jack State. His strength of schedule is what really helps a lot in these rankings because obviously, boom, big win over UNLV. And then the 2 losses are against Toledo, who is undefeated, and then South Carolina, which, like he had mentioned earlier, like CPU-wise, that is one of the absolute most mind-joggling teams that you will have to deal with Lenoris and Harbor and all of them. And so that's why I'm not punishing too badly for that loss specifically. Now, obviously, back is against the wall. Truthfully, him and Rice, the winner of that game is going to send the other into the abyss. Point blank, period. And so, it's showtime now. It's showtime.
All right, moving on to number 14. We lost a lot of people. There's only 4 people in here now. Moving on to number 14. This is where I have, maybe if it wants to pull up, this is where I have ECU and Coach Sterling. Another very hard coach to rank, but 1 and 2 being in the top 14 is really solid. I know there's a lot of 2-loss teams, but what did it for me is that win on the road in Death Valley down 17-0, you come back and win. You did lose to Coastal Carolina on game day, so I have to be, like I said, be consistent. You only lost by a touchdown. Coastal Carolina we haven't seen yet, so he's a really good user. And then you lost to Zach by 1 point. So obviously, I know this isn't where Sterling wants to be. I can speak for him in that regard. But he has a lot of football ahead of him. He just beat Washington State today, which is not a part of these rankings. Then he has Army, and then on the road at Toledo, and Toledo's undefeated. So he has a lot of ways to improve his ranking here. So I look forward to seeing what he does with the next couple of games.
At number 14, kind of like I mentioned last time against with Leo, I just wasn't trying to punish him too much. The small sample size. He had a big win against Nevada, who I was a little higher on than most of y'all. And then obviously he had the game day loss to JMU, who I'm really high on. He got blown out. That game wasn't even close. But it's just a small sample size for me. I was just trying not to punish people. Well, been empty for the longest.
You said what?
What is damn Gatorade ball I've been staring at?
Yeah, similar to ECU, man. Like, so his week 0 loss was against Arkansas State, who at the time we did the power rankings was 2-1 and looked good, excluding 1 loss that they had. Then he goes on the road, beats Clemson, and they call it Death Valley out there, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so like that's a big time win. And then following that up with the loss to Coastal, who is going to be obviously somebody higher on the list who we haven't, ranked yet. Like that to me shows me like the skill is there, the potential is there. It's just will he start to now win some of these more competitive and closer games, which obviously he followed it up with a blowout win on Washington, getting back on track, and then has Fred the following week.
All right, number 13. Now this one is going to be. I want to explain this one. This one's kind of a tricky one here.
So I gotta explain my 13 as well. So
I have Memphis here. He is my highest ranked 2-loss team. You guys notice you haven't seen Temple on my list yet. So I gave a lot of credit for that Temple win. I think that Coach Fresh, shout out to you, man. I like Memphis here. You lose 2 games early. You lose on the road in Corvallis to Oregon State. He is a 2-1 user, so we haven't seen his name pop up yet. You lost to Iowa State, who's undefeated right now, and they are the number 10 team in college football. And then you beat Temple, and I think it has to go with saying that I think 15 or 16 people voted on him to lose that game. So the fact that he was able to not only kind of strut his stuff after the game, but he knew that he was the underdog going into that game. In the survivor pool, he single-handedly eliminated the whole survivor pool. So although he's 1-2, I think the 2 losses were completely negated by that win at Temple, because I think at the end of the year, Temple, at the end of the cycle, now when I say end of the year, I mean cycle, Temple is probably going to be a user that not only plays for a national championship, that could possibly get a national championship, and you were able to knock him off and end the survivor pool in season 1 by week 2 or week 3 or whatever he did it by. So I gave a lot of credit for that, although he lost that to a top 10 team at Iowa State.
Yeah, I got to explain this one. Obviously, I have number 13. I have Bryce. And the reason behind this is just the fact that if you look at all the one-win teams, he has the best user win. And that I know you have Temple still to mention.
Well, that's
just
my
Temple,
list as well. Like,
yeah.
so I mean, your list is different than mine.
And I had Temple pretty low on my list, and I haven't named Dane yet. So to me, I think that Fresno State is one of the better user wins you can get at this point as a one-loss team. I know we talked about the CPU a lot here, but there's 32 of us, and at some point we got to be some users. And that Fresno State was very dominant win on the road at Fresno State, very dominant. And then, like I said, I think that wins holds value when it comes to like having a good user win. So I put him at 13.
All right, and then Savage's 13th team.
Boise. So
Yeah,
I'm very high
brother.
I'm very high on Boise. So obviously, he beats Texas State. That was at the time of the desync, it was a close game. Game was on the line actually whenever it desynced. Then he loses to JMU, and he loses to USF by a combined 7 points in total of 2 losses. And you see and the JMU was a comeback win. That was a big win that kind of put everybody, at least for me, to my knowledge, like put a lot of people on the JMU, like, okay, hold up now. And JMU is somebody who I don't think we've all mentioned yet. And then Leo is somebody who I believe 2 of us had in this 10 to 20-ish range. And so for me, it's like, okay, you're losing games, but you're keeping very competitive. Like it can go 50-50 either way. And so I do think, yes, Boise will probably end up being a guy similar to how you think Temple will compete for a natty. Do I think Boise will be a natty contender? Probably not. Not at all, as of right now. But will he give a lot of people fits and win a lot of games? Yes.
All right, moving on to 12. I'm not mad at that explanation, by the way.
Yeah,
when I first saw your list, I was like, yeah, but he's tripping. But number 12, this is where I have, or why did it say Temple? Oh, I do have Temple. I have Oregon State after at 11, so I kind of gave that away. But yeah, I have Temple at 12, 1-1. Obviously, lost to Memphis. Memphis is 1 spot behind him. The reason why I don't have Memphis above him is because Memphis has an additional loss, and Temple has the biggest win in BYO right now against the CPU and Penn State. And like I said a second ago, I gave Sterling a lot of credit for that Clemson win, and I think this is the best CPU win so far. Obviously, North Texas has the Longhorns this week, so he can trump that. But with Justin getting that win against Penn State, I think had he lost that game and he'd be 0-2, this is a team that probably be in the 25 range. So winning that game kept you in top 10 relevance, top 10-ish relevance. So I think that was a very big win, and it was a statement win that CPUs can be beat. Yeah, so this is where I have Temple.
Yeah, at number 12, I have Oregon State. He has the win over Memphis, as you just mentioned. He also has a win over, I want to say it was SMU.
Yes.
Which I don't know if they're ranked at this point anymore, but they were at the time, I believe. And then obviously that loss to Fresno State, who I haven't mentioned yet on mine as well. He was 2-0. Yeah, but I think that he came out strong. He was undefeated. He only has one loss. I think he's probably one of the better 2-1 teams out there. So this is why I have Oregon State here at number 12.
And then 12 for Savage.
Yeah, this is why I had Oregon State as well, being 2-1, a win over SMU, a win over Memphis, who we saw just knock off Temple, and then the loss against Fresno State. Like my issue with Oregon State is, because now I can kind of get into more specifics, like user by user wise, is if he can run the ball, and I think it's similar to Dane, that if they can run the ball, you're in for a long day. But it was his inability while throwing the football that really held it back for me, and was like, he's got some room for improvement largely. And so, like, being 2-1, 12 to me is, he's more than happy to be 2-1 right now.
And he is 0-1 in conference. I don't know why I didn't put the one on Brandon's thing, but he is 0-1 in conference. And this is where I had him. I had him at 11 for all the same things you guys said. The win against SMU was big to me. And then he lost on the road at Fresno State in a close game. I mean, 10 points is close to me. So this is where I have him at 11.
All right, I know y'all ain't mentioned Mickey Dow yet, but this is where I have McDowell at. And when you talk about the CPUs, you cannot mention the CPU without mentioning the fact that he lost to the worst CPU on this game. You don't get worse than ULM. So you got to hold some value to. If you're gonna hold some value to CPU, you definitely got to do there, because that's one of the worst CPUs in the game, if not the worst. He had a good win, a week 0 against Sterling. Obviously, goes up 21-0. Sterling comes back and he finished that game out 28-27. So he finishes off, and then obviously he was in a really good defensive battle against Colorado State. And his defense ultimately was the deciding factor there. So, yeah, the only thing that punches him was that ULM loss. I mean, the only reason why I didn't put him at 12 was just because that Oregon State has a conference loss. But that loss to ULM, I mean, when you speak of losses, that's probably the worst loss we've seen. So, yeah, that's why I got there. That's pretty bad.
And that's exactly where I had him at. And like I said, like, boom, he beat TCU, who's shown to be really good. Colorado State, who's obviously winless, but you still see all the skill traits there. And then ULM, bro, like,
yeah, it's pretty bad, man.
like,
to be fair, it's a rivalry game.
No, we don't want to hear that. He doesn't really feel the rivalry with them. He probably didn't even know they were a rivalry whenever he was picking that team. But
and it was just the confidence going into the game. The coach at Arkansas State said, "Yeah, I'm gonna start my third string. We're gonna take care of them. It's easy."
He did not say that.
Yeah, he did.
Yes,
he was pretty confident going into that game.
That's crazy.
And I really wish I could have punished him more for that loss, but he thankfully has a 2 in front, and so he's.
Yeah, that's literally what it is, man.
That's all it is.
I tried to give him as much credit as I could. The only reason why he was in front of Oregon State was because of that conference loss. He could be 3-0 right now on this list if he doesn't drop the easiest game he's got all season.
All right, top 10, fellas.
Yeah,
top 10. This is where it's going to get fun. Number 10.
Go and drop it in the chat too. Go and notify everybody. Like,
yeah, before we get to the top 10, I think people got in here because I think you said like there's only 14 in here. Let's get some people back in here, man.
There's 15 in here. There's 15 in here now.
Oh, we're good then. Let's get it.
All right, top 10. At number 10, controversial. I have Tulane here. At 2-0, I have Tulane. He has wins over USF by 26 and New Mexico by 28. You guys might say he's undefeated. Why is he at 10? Because there's not 9 more undefeated teams. But I think when you look at his strength of record, I have USF at 20, and I had New Mexico, I think, at 28 or 26, somewhere along those lines. So the people that are ahead of him have played tougher opponents. They may not be undefeated, but they play tougher opponents. And there's obviously undefeated teams left as well, a handful of them. So this is where I have Tulane. I think he still has a little bit to improve on. He has a very big game this week against Florida at home. If he's able to win that game, he could easily skyrocket himself into the top 3 or 2 because that would be a big win. That would be the second best win in BYL, depending on what happens at Texas. So he has a very big opportunity this week against the Gators. Please beat them because I would love that job. So please beat them.
I'll tell you, bro.
I'd love to be a
like
Gator.
I'm gonna get extended here at Jack State. You know.
But shout out to Mead here, top 10. I know he's got to be happy with this ranking. I mean, he probably want to be a little bit higher, but I think 10 is really good, especially when you've only played 2 games. Everybody else have played, 3 to 4. So yeah, I mean, you're 2-0 and you haven't even hit in conference yet. So shout out to Mead being at number 10.
Yeah, at number 10, I have Mr. Dane himself.
I think, man.
I think that Oregon State win is a really good win. He was yapping all off season with the Rice thing. Obviously, I was pretty high on Rice as well. He gets blown out in that game. It wasn't competitive at all. It was really an embarrassment. Yeah, that was one of the worst losses. And he loses to Texas Tech, which I was trying not to put much thought on that one. Obviously, CPUs, they do, like, you got to look at them at certain points. And then the Army win, obviously, it was a close win. I wanted to really punish him for that win, but he did get the win. And then, obviously, he's 1-0 in conference. So I felt like that win over Oregon State really separated himself from a lot of the other people, considering that's probably one of the better wins out of all of the 2-win teams. So, yeah.
All right, at 10 for Coach Savage.
Yep, that's where I have Dane at as well. 10. Obviously, his loss is a prime time, or one of his 2 losses is a prime time loss, inexcusable. And then he loses to Tech most recently. Has a win, super, super close win over Fredo, who was viewed as one of the bottom 2 users, and then has a win over Oregon State, who at the time was 2-0.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think, like I said, my criticism of Oregon State is the same thing that applies to Dane, which is if they can run the ball, you're in for a long day. If they don't, there's a lot of weaknesses there that can quickly get exposed and things get out of hand.
Exactly.
Oregon State has number 3 Oregon on the ropes right now. Oh, crap. I didn't even know they were playing. We started this an hour and 15 minutes ago, though. That's probably why. All right, number 9. Number 9. This is where I have, Zachary Ray. 2-1, Zach. Now, to be fair, I agree with you guys on the ULM loss. But I will say ULM is a 3-1 ball club. So listen, let me talk. Let me talk. He has a very good win over an ECU team in week 1. A game that he was the legitimate underdog. A user that went to the national championship multiple times last year. On paper, Arkansas State was the worst team. On paper, Arkansas State's a 6-9 overall. I think ECU's higher than that, if I'm not mistaken. And then you beat Colorado State, and I know Colorado State is winless, but Colorado State also was in all 3 of his games.
Yeah, all 3 of us
firmly,
spoke very highly of Colorado State.
So I think Colorado State could easily be 2-1 or undefeated right now, for being honest. He was beating me at one point. He was down 3-0 to Arkansas, or 3-0 to Zach, and he missed 2 field goals. He shanked both of them. So I think Arkansas State has showed a lot of resiliency up until this point. So I have him at 9. I think he's earned this spot. Although he lost that game against ULM, I think he's earned that spot. I think those 2 wins make me feel confident about him being at number 9 for me.
I have JMU, and before I get into this, because boy, did I want to put him higher than this shit. And I was trying not, you haven't seen Tulane on my list yet, and I was trying not to punish people. I was trying not to put a face on stuff. But this is really whenever I was like, I just can't agree with myself here. I'm really high on JMU. He goes on the road week 1. He loses to Penn State, and then he gets 3 really good wins. I'm a lot higher on this than 9, but I wanted to give other users credit, and you lost, and I don't feel like you're the best 1-loss team because we have a dog coming up soon. So that's why I have you here at 9.
All right, Coach Savage.
Navy, man. I got Navy, and it's solely because we have seen Navy in one game play really, really well against SDSU. And honestly, really, the thing that just hurt Navy was the fact that they had a fair sim. Like that, truly, like the game against Rice was the fact that they did not get to play because had he go out there dominated Rice, then he moves up higher on my list. But just off of one win, that's kind of where I have to put you at for now.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not mad at that. I was kind of in the same boat as you. I just didn't end up punishing them, as you can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, I have Navy at 8. It's hard to rank him. He only played 2 games. Really, he only played 1. He got the force win against the other. Looked really good against SDSU. But I just can't. I can't find myself moving him up any higher on this list because we haven't seen enough. And he was tied for my favorite to win the American. So I'm not. It's not like I'm not high on this team or this program. It's just I want to be able to see it on the field. Because of how his schedule is with protected rivals, he has 4 bye weeks in the first 5 weeks. So it's like he hasn't really been able to do anything yet. There's nothing that we could have done scheduling wise. It was all locked out because of protected rivals. So I think he has a lot to prove still because he's undefeated and he's at 8, just like Tulane being at 10. But at the end of the day, it's not something that he could control. I mean, he's 2-0 and we're heading into week 5.
Honestly, I'm embarrassed here at 8. I just want to let y'all know that right now. I'm pretty embarrassed here, and that is solely because let me explain. Let me explain. Because honestly, I'm very high on Coastal Carolina, as y'all all know. I think he should be somewhere along the top 5 easily. It's just everybody. If you look at the league right now through 3 games, everybody has a really low sample size. Like you said, like he just said, Navy only has 2 games, and I was just trying not to punish people. One, for they haven't lost yet, and I just don't want to punish them for not playing enough games. But boy, this is absolutely one of the most embarrassments. I don't like. Whenever I was trying to put him down, I deleted his name like 5 or 6 times because he should not be right here. He should be way higher. My argument is I just can't punish people this early in the year for not losing yet. That's my main argument for that. He's not 8. He's way higher. It's embarrassing.
All right, Savage, you're at 8.
This is where I have App State. App State, like I'm kind of hard on trying to like rank App State. Like I don't know where really to put him at, but like the fact he is undefeated moves him automatically up into the upper echelon of guys. Like boom, he beats Texas State in the close game, then he beats Nevada in the close game. But it's also like now I can't punish him for not going up against a higher user because he's only played who he's played. It's just more like I want to see more from you. Now he obviously has LSU this week, which will be big, which is a CPU game, but at least it just shows me, all right, what will you do against, a better just team period. But that's where I have App State for now.
Alrighty. Number 7. This is where I have App State. Same thing. Same thing as Tulane. Tulane's 2-0, but I had him at 10 because he only had wins over USF and somebody else I forget. So same concept, but he has wins over Nevada and Texas State, both of them being on the road, and I factor that into it. So he's been on the road twice, and he's been victorious twice. But because he's only played 2 games and he hasn't played, a top 15 or so user, top 10 user, it's kind of hard to move him any higher on this list. But I think App State's in a good spot, being 2-0, hasn't started conference play, has LSU this week, and the next week has Toledo. And I think Toledo's going to be a tough game. You're on the road there. So that should be interesting as well.
All right. At number 7, I had Tulane. And honestly, this is where I was like, I kind of I can't put like a user on a team because obviously we know what Meade was last year. And obviously y'all are a lot lower on Meade. And if he was, let's say like, if Steven had the same resume as Meade, he wouldn't get his punish as much. And I was trying not to put a user on the team, so I was just trying to give him his respect. He did have 2. He played 2 solid users as not solid, but he played New Mexico, which was he had the big win over Illinois, and then he played USF, who he dominated week 1 or whatever the first week, and. Yeah, I mean, those games wasn't really that close. He he had pretty big wins on both of them, and he played who he played, and it wasn't like he was struggling in those games. He dominated him, and I just try to take Mead off Tulane and just look at Tulane. So I feel like just wasn't trying to punish him for who he was. He might come in here and keep wrecking. I don't know, but I had like you got to at the back of your mind when you look at Tulane at 7, you kind of look at what he did last year in BYO, and that's kind of like what harms him a little bit for a lot of people. But I feel like the 2 wins that he did get, they were both really good wins.
Number 7 for Savage.
Yeah, this is where I had Tulane, and so like Tulane, obviously, like I wish he had better games against users he's played. But obviously, like week 0 was an eye opener because we're like, hold up, like we going into it, week 0, nobody was expecting Leo to get stomped out by Tulane, and so that was one of those. Okay, hold up, Tulane, you might be cooking. Then you beat New Mexico, who was kind of expected, but as of right now, he has as far as BYL users go, he has the second best offense and one of the better defenses in BYL in the 2-game sample size. So
I want to say he has like the second best margin of victory in the league as well, or some shit like that. I could be wrong, but it was up there. I'm not trying to sit here and just give some big ass like huge defensive here for Tulane, but I mean, shout out to Tulane, man.
Really quick. Yeah, what I'll do, Josh, I'll probably put all of ours rankings together, and then just it'll be like the BYO poll. So I'll just average out all 3 when we're at the very end.
Shit, they're gonna watch the video. You might as well just have like all 3 of like Bama, Steven, Savage, and then all 3 of their lists underneath them.
All right, bet. All right, you ready? Keep going.
Yeah.
All right. Number 6. Number 6. I have to explain myself with this one. This is where I have Coastal. So a little bit higher than 8. But I gave him a knock for that loss to Clemson. That was a massive loss to a CPU at home. So it was hard for me not to compare what ECU did on the road, because I think winning on the road in Death Valley is very hard. And you had Clemson at home and you lost by 40 points. So I think that has to be accounted for something. You did beat New Mexico by 60, but New Mexico was my number like 24 team or something crazy like that. You beat Southern Miss by 40 or 30, but they were my number 18 team. And then you beat ECU, who is my number 14 team or 13 team. So that was a very good win. But when you just look at it in total, the whole resume, I couldn't justify putting anything higher than 6 based on who we still have to list because of that loss to Clemson. I think that was such a bad loss that it's a stain. I feel like it's a stain. I mean, it's going to be hard to get over that until you keep, kind of racking up more wins. But a 40-point loss, that's one of those losses where at the end of the year, when the committee is looking at it, they're like, how can you put a team in that has a 40-point loss? It's one of those situations. So I understand Zay is probably one of the most polarizing users offensively in this league. So when you look at that game in particular, it's kind of like it kind of like makes you open your eyes a little bit. So that's why I have him at number 6, just because of that game.
Just to piggyback off what you said there, that's where it kind of started getting a little difficult for me when it came to like judging users and like when they're playing other users and then judging them on when they play the CPU. Obviously, that was a really bad loss to Clemson, and he played ECU on the road at ECU and wins that game by 7. And obviously, we've seen ECU come back in Death Valley and knock off the Tigers. So that's whenever it started getting a little difficult for me to judge like how much do I put thought into like CPU wins. Obviously, you still got to judge them. That's why I gave him a lot of credit for that win with the CPU. But I feel like that's probably why I had him a little lower, just because I had to punish him a little bit because he did have a 40-point loss to Clemson. But that also became difficult to judge from the rest of the list. Obviously, he was at 8 for me, and I had to judge from 9 all the way down to 32. And at that point on, I was like confused on the CPU just because of what we saw with him and Sterling. So yeah, that's kind of mine, because I had him at 6 and 5 for the longest until I was like, I kind of got to give these guys some credit.
All right, you're number 6.
Yeah, at number 6 I have App State, and the reason why I had him slightly above Tulane was just because like I kind of favored his wins. I favored the Texas State win a lot, and then I think his other win might have been Nevada, who y'all seen was pretty high. I had Nevada above New Mexico. I think just those two wins alone, I feel like they were a little bit better than Tulane. Y'all are pretty Savage pretty high on USF, but I just think that win over Nevada, because I know what Nevada really is as a user, and I just had to give him a little bit more credit for that Nevada win versus Tulane's USF win. So that's why I kind of had them back and forth right there.
And then Savage at 6.
This is where I put Liberty at. Liberty is undefeated. Like, the good thing about Liberty is he's playing defense. Nobody's hit over 17 points, like whether it was Utah State or San Diego State, or he won at Auburn and they didn't even surpass 17 points. My thing is, like, yes, he's winning close, low scoring games, and obviously I can't punish somebody for that. But when comparing him to other users, you want to see more dominance in the wins, and so that's for me is like you're winning these close games, but we need to see you take that next step if you want to be considered, obviously, like one of those, let's say, top 5 guys.
Alrighty, number 5. Number
I'm
5.
curious on who Savage got at 5.
This is where I have myself. San Jose State at 3-0, 1-0 in conference. Now, hear me out here. I think the reason why, when you look at all of so I played 2 CPUs this year. I have USC, who I already played. I beat them by 17. I still play Ole Miss, so I just haven't played my tough CPU yet, so it's hard to judge my CPU win. Oh, I mean, USC is a good team, don't get me wrong, but they're not Penn State, they're not Texas, they're not Clemson, they're not a lot of these other teams, not a team like Oregon. So I did beat them. I blew a 17-point lead at half to Dev Rufus and won on a walk-off field goal. I blew a 17-point lead against Colorado State and won by a touchdown, or by 10 points in the fourth quarter. Both those games being on the road, so I gave myself a little bit of credit for that. But kind of what Savage said about Liberty, the 2 user games that I played were 1-possession games in the fourth quarter, and I think they could have swung either way. I just feel like if you guys go back and watch, and I can speak a little bit more because, I mean, it's me, so I'm like speaking of how I feel, obviously, so it's a little bit different circumstance, but I just felt very uncomfortable in both of those games. Quarterback just missing passes. So I don't feel like my team or me myself should be higher than 5 based on the other 4 people that are still left to be set on here. For one, because Colorado State doesn't have a win yet. And although I'm pretty high on him, he doesn't have a win. Louisiana Tech is 1-2. So this ranking was done prior to him beating Miami. So, I mean, that was not on his resume before. So coming into this, my best win was against a CPU USC who's not ranked. So I had to kind of take that into account. So I have myself at 5.
Yeah, at 5, I have Navy. I guess I just wasn't trying to punish him for that Bryce game. Obviously, he's only played 1 game, and he did get a hold of Trey. And when it came to just judging the 2-win teams, the 2-0 teams, I feel like obviously I was already more higher on him in the preseason, and the way how dominant his game was against SDSU. The other 2 users just wasn't as dominant as he was. So that's why I have Navy at 5. I just didn't want to punish him for that sim against Bryce.
All right, Savage, you're number 5.
This is where I got Toledo. Man, Toledo has had an interesting start to his schedule. I know the first game he was airing it out crazy. Or no, it was first or second game. He had a big like passing day, but beats Colorado State, who we all acknowledge as a competitive user, beats Jacksonville State in a back and forth game. But he was kind of like going up. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he would like go up 2 possessions and you would kind of bring it in close. And he would go up 2 possessions, like kind of keeping arm's distance. And then beats Western Kentucky like for his 3rd win. He's been undefeated so far and one of the better passing offenses in the league, while also not giving up too much defensively outside of the 30 ball against Jacksonville State. So that's why for me it's like, okay, like Toledo's one of the guys to keep an eye out for. Obviously this week will be big for him. He goes on the road to Notre Dame, so Hey, showtime.
All right. Number 4. Number 4, we've talked about him already. This is where I have Snoop and JMU. 3-1, so obviously has a blemish on his resume. But that's arguably the hardest place to play in Beaver Stadium. So I gave him a little bit of slack for that. He lost by 19. That was the first time he stepped on the field with his program, and he lost to Penn State. I understand Temple beat him. I gave Temple a lot of credit for beating Penn State, that is. But after losing to Penn State, you reel off 3 straight wins over Boise State, North Texas, and Western Kentucky. North Texas and Boise State and Western Kentucky are all pretty low on my rankings. But like I said before, I don't think any of those 3 teams are going to be where they are now at the end of the season. Boise State was projected, in my opinion, to finish 3rd in the Mountain West. Western Kentucky was projected to finish, I think, top 3 or 4 in his conference. And then North Texas obviously is in the toughest conference in BYL, so he's in the middle of the road. But I think those are 3 really good wins. You beat North Texas big in Game of the Week, and I've said it before, I think Game of the Weeks matter. So the fact that you were able to kind of put your foot down and win that game in blowout fashion is big. This week you go on the road to Liberty. Liberty has not been on my list yet, so obviously that's a top 5 matchup. The only reason why that game wasn't Game of the Week this week is because JMU just got one, so we decided not to vote on that one. So JMU and Liberty both have really big games this week. I think JMU or Liberty has the potential to either one of those 2 teams declare themselves the number 1 team in BYL early on, depending on how that game goes. So that's why I have it number 4 in JMU.
Yeah, at number 4, I have Liberty. And it just comes down to the fact that he's winning. Yes, I definitely gave him credit for winning, but I just feel like his win should be a little bit more dominant. I thought that SDSU game, you should have won that by double digits. So, I mean, I'm like 15 plus. Obviously, I believe that was a home game. I feel like you should have dominated them a little bit more. That win at Auburn was very huge. And I want to say the other one was Utah State, who is also 0-3. I feel like that game was really close. It was the first game of the season. Trying to get a feel for your team. I just feel like that game could have been a little bit more open as well from what we've seen from Utah State past that. But, I mean, number 4 for me is not bad at all.
Number 4 for Savage coming up.
And yeah, like JMU for me, a big thing for me as to why I also had JMU at number 4 was, yes, boom, he loses to Penn State, rattles off 3 wins, but also like not only do you win, but it's how you're winning games. And like JMU is somebody who we saw make real adjustments in real time, and they had change ups to things, and you see them making like key decisions that help flip the game and win the game. That to me shows your skill and your ability to adapt, obviously. And so that's where I really give him a big boost, because at least he's somebody I can see, or somebody that has proven like, hey, oh, they can actually do it. They can make adjustments. They can win with a plan B, plan C.
All right, top 3.
As y'all can tell, y'all both had JMU a lot higher than I did. I was really high on JMU. I had him around where y'all had him as well. It's just the fact that I wasn't trying to punish teams that were undefeated. Now, next weekend, when we do the Saturday rankings, we'll have a lot more to judge. And that's whenever I feel like my list will be a lot more thorough when it comes to giving users credit for wins and losses.
All right, number 3 for me. This is where I have UTSA. Now, I know you're gonna make that face, and I'm talking to Brandon, not Savage. So I wanna really break this down. UTSA has been the most dominant team as far as point differential and scoring, but I will say, based on all 3 of our rankings, the 3 people he's beaten has been either the last place team, second to last, or third last team. So the 3 people that he's played not only are either 29, 30, 31, or 32, none of them have a win. So there's nobody on Savage's resume right now that has won a football game. So I think that's why he's at 3 for me and not higher. And all 3 of those games, 2 of the 3 were home games. Home field advantage is a mother sucker in college football. So I think that played a part, me putting him at 3 as well. But to me, the biggest thing, he said UTSA is destroying them, though. Got to dominate the lower comp. I agree. But a lot of these other teams that are in the top 5 or so have that other game that they've played against somebody that's either a really good CPU, and Savage just hasn't played a CPU yet. He plays Auburn late in the year, but they've either already played their CPU or they played another user that has a top 12 or 13 resume so far based on us. And when I initially had my list made, I made it before them two. When I had them at 3, I was like, okay, I wonder where they're going to have them, and we'll talk about it in a second. But then once I realized the 3 people that Savage played, we were all in agreement on where they were going to be. I knew, I was like, okay, what I had originally, my original thought process, I felt validated on, because I'm going based off of who he's beaten. Now, if the Arkansas State game that just happened today was on this resume, then I would feel a little bit different, because Arkansas State has a good win in ECU. But the 3 teams that he's beaten, not only has they not won a game, but 3 of those teams they all have gotten blown out by multiple people. So it's kind of hard to judge these blowouts as of right now, just because I don't know at the end of the year what are these. Army may be 2-10 at the end of the year. We don't know what Army's going to be. I know he said he's going to win a natty, but we don't know what Army's going to be. We don't know what Texas State's going to be with his connection, and we don't know what Utah State is going to be. I thought Utah State was going to be a damn top 5 user in here when I played him head-to-head the other day, and he's 0-3 right now. So I want to see at the end of the year how this resume kind of stacks up. But yeah, that's where I have UTSA, and I know that's going to raise eyebrows, but that's where I have them.
No, I'm not mad after you explain yourself. At number 3 is where I have Toledo at, and it just really came down because obviously you haven't seen San Jose State yet. He's been very dominant in his games. Like Savage said earlier, like he felt like I was bringing it close with him, and then he would keep going. He managed that game. He took advantage of the mistakes that Jack State made, and he just kept pulling away. He was battle tested in that game for sure, and he's probably been one of the most battle tested users on this list. And he plugged through the whole entire time. He has a really good win over Western Kentucky, as y'all can see, and then he has a win over Colorado State. And the deciding factor for his spot was really the fact that who y'all are going to see next. They had the same common opponent, and both on the road at Colorado State, and one took care of business at Colorado State just a little bit more than the other one did. So that's why I have Toledo at 3.
And Savage at 3.
Yeah, I have San Jose State at number 3. Obviously opened up, like for me, watching San Jose the first 3 games, the only game to me he's felt fully comfortable in was the USC game. Like the other 2, and I think this is what's going to hinder him from, to me, like the number 2 spot and number 1 spot, is you just want to see more dominance out of San Jose State in his wins. Like the defense has been showing up outside of one game essentially. But for me, especially, it's just quarterback play. And it's not as far as like their quarterback is making bad reads, but like watching San Jose State, their quarterback is just inconsistent throwing the football. And it's just like whenever you're splitting hairs between all the top users, it's like that takes into account who would I trust more, at the helm, like, with their quarterback and simple things like that. And so that's for me why I have San Jose State number 3. It's just the amount of dominance compared to the others.
Alrighty, number 2. This is where I have Coach Westside and Liberty. He shocked me this year. Now, I think the reason why I gave Liberty the edge over UTSA, both teams 3-0, that win at Auburn, I feel like is a better win than any win that I have, any win that Savage has, and obviously JMU has a loss. So that's why I have Liberty higher than him, even though JMU has some good wins as well. But that win at Auburn is big. Obviously, Auburn's not a ranked team, but anybody who knows college football knows that Jordan-Hare is a tough environment. So winning on the road in Jordan-Hare, and I think to Savage's point, dominating games is very important, but I also think it's just as important to win the close games and being in very close games. And I think winning on the road at Auburn against the CPU is really solid. I think winning by 10 points at SDSU and then winning by 4 against Utah State is solid. Like I said before, I think Utah State is going to be a really good user. Oh, they were ranked top 22 at the time. That's what Josh said. But I think Utah State's going to be a good user. I just think he's starting off really slow. I played him in the head-to-head the other day, and he almost beat me. So I think that win's going to be good. But for me, like I said, Josh kind of surprised me with Liberty so far. And that win at Auburn is what kind of propelled him to the 2 spot for me personally. So that's why I have him here.
Yeah, my number 2 team, I have San Jose State. Like you said a minute ago, those close games definitely make you. I put a lot of thought into that Dev win. I feel like Dev was really more solid opponent, and obviously I think more highly of Dev than I do the Utah State win that Savage and Westside have. And then that USC win, I feel like that's pretty. USC is not some world beer like Clemson or anything like that, but that it does hold a lot of more value when you're talking about 0-3 teams. It just when it comes to like the game, like Colorado State game was a difference maker for me at 1-2. That I feel like that game should have been a little bit more open, but yeah, that's I feel like the number 1, number 2 when it comes to those people is just the margin of difference for me at 1-2 was the deciding factor. That's why I got San Jose at 2.
And then Savage number 2.
Yeah, this is for me where I have Coastal at. Obviously, they have a loss on their record, which was against Clemson. Which I said earlier, like I don't punish going against elite CPUs that badly, as maybe somebody else or maybe others might have. But versus users, obviously he opens up the year against New Mexico 66-7, stomping. Southern Miss 48-14 in a game of the week, stomping, made us completely switch to another game that we had to watch. And then goes and beats ECU, who we all recognize as a really good user, 31-24. And so for me, it's like their quarterback play has been really good. They are also just straight up dominating teams. Like they're running the ball, they're throwing the football, playing good defense, like really good defense. And for me, that's why I have Coastal number 2. They have been really, really impressive. I think you're going to learn a lot about him coming up soon, probably within the next power ranking, because he has like Kentucky, which he needs to beat the CPU, and then he has a 4-game stretch, my bad, of App State, Liberty, Toledo, Temple, and that will tell you everything you need to know about Coastal.
Alrighty, the number 1 spot.
Well.
The number 1 spot for the BYL Season 1 Week 4 rankings. My number 1, I have to give credit to him. And he's annoying, but I have to give him his credit. Mike Jones in Toledo. Mike Jones in Toledo is my number 1 team right now. I think now when you look at resume for resume, USF probably has a better win and on the road at Auburn, but USF played 3 games and 2 of them were at home. Toledo played 3 games and 2 of them were on the road. And he beat a Western Kentucky team who, like I said before, I feel like is going to be a lot better at the end of the year. He beat Jacksonville State, who I think was number 16 on my list. And he beat Colorado State, who I just said a second ago, I think could have easily been 2-1 or 3-0. All his points, all his games have been decided by 10 or less. I think the way Toledo plays, if you guys go back and watch the Jacksonville State game, and you go watch any of these games, the way he's played so far, he's controlled every game. And it's not the prettiest style to play. It's not the most flashy. He's a very annoying both on the field and off the field, but it's working. I mean, he's just now starting to do recaps. Maybe that's what it was. I mean, keep doing recaps. We'll keep winning games. But I have him here at number 1. And another reason why I have him at number 1 is because he's the only user that is 3-0 and played against all users so far. And 2 of them are on the road. So every other user that has, that's undefeated so far. Oh, I mean, obviously Savage is undefeated against users as well, but 2 of them being at home. I have a win at home against USC. That's not a user. And then who's the other undefeated team? Liberty has a CPU. So him and Savage are the only 2 teams that played all users, but he's had to go on the road twice. And he was, in my opinion, the underdog in at least 2 of those games. So I think that says a lot about him and what he's done so far. He has Notre Dame this week. I think if he's able to somehow beat Notre Dame, that just further proves my point that, I mean, he's right now I'm not going to say the clear cut because you're splitting hairs when you're talking about who has home games and who has users. So, but I think if he beats Notre Dame, then at that point you have the second best, win in BYL as far as, CPU goes. And what's it called? Beat Penn State at home. He would go on the road to beat Notre Dame. So I would value that more. Yes. So we'll just have to see what Toledo does, but shout out to Mike Jones for the success so far. Big props to you, bro.
Definitely on one right now. At number one, I have UTSA, and it just strictly comes down to how dominant he's been in the three opponents. Obviously, they're all combined of 0-9, but you've only allowed 21 points in 3 games, which is 7 points a game, and I think he's averaging like 45. So, I mean, it's not like he's coming out here and he's struggling against some of these users. The game is not close whatsoever at any given point. As soon as the game starts, it's immediately starts to get out of hand. And I just didn't want to punish him too much for the fact that the people that he played aren't the greatest right now, but how dominant he has been. 21 points in 3 games is not close to a lot of what people have done in 3 to 4 games yet. So I just had to give him credit. His defense is playing lights out, and his offense is one of the best right now.
Yeah, I had UTSA number one as well. So like just comparing it to just BYL users alone, you got to think UTSA, even though they played against 0-9 combined record, but number one scoring offense, number one scoring defense, and then whenever you look at turnover difference, it was also the number one turnover difference in the country period at the time through week 3, which was 9 takeaways to 0 giveaways. And so for me, it's just like that is the most dominant team so far we have in BYL. Even though the competition is not the best and you would like to see more, the dominance to me triumphs that.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of separated it for me as well. Just the fact that they're not the best, but the dominance was definitely there, and that's kind of what you want to see. From whenever like we're talking about some of the best users in the league, when you're playing against some of the lower ends, you kind of want to see that dominance factor from that. So that's kind of why you got the edge for me there. But Toledo definitely has an argument, like Steven said, for being the number one team in the league. He's played 3 users and he's controlled the pace on every one of those games.
All right, y'all. That was an hour and 45 minutes. I promise you one thing: we will never do another hour and 45-minute power ranking show again.
The longest fucking power ranking show, and I won't be a part of another 2-hour show.
But we'll be live again either on Friday or Sunday, depending on the event schedule. Right now it is week 4, so it'll probably go through week 7. And we'd have our power ranking again. So like I said before, let us know if you guys want to get in on a show. Kind of give your input, have your voice be heard. It's pretty fun. But I will post the rankings later on tonight in the Discord. And I will see y'all later. Peace out.